On a quiet afternoon, as soft golden sunlight filtered through the cafe windows, Emily, a young waitress, was pushing through yet another exhausting shift. The faint murmurs of the remaining customers blended with the gentle tunes playing from a small speaker in the corner, creating a peaceful yet somewhat heavy atmosphere. For Emily, afternoons like these dragged on endlessly, weighed down by the looming presence of unpaid bills waiting for her at home. She wiped the last table near the window, occasionally glancing at the clock. "Just 2 more hours," she whispered to herself, though every minute felt like an eternity. Her gaze shifted to the sunlight streaming through the glass, small patches of warmth piercing the monotony of her tiring day. And then, the doorbell softly chimed. Emily turned around, her hands pausing mid-wipe. A tall young man walked in. He wore a simple white shirt and tailored slacks, yet his presence was anything but ordinary. Behind him were 2 quiet men, their sharp eyes scanning every corner of the cafe. Despite his unassuming attire, the way he carried himself altered the very energy of the room. For a moment, Emily froze, not because of the man's polished demeanor, but because he looked familiar. She couldn't immediately place him, but there was something about his eyes, his expression, something she had seen before in the news or on television. A few seconds passed before it clicked. It was Barron Trump, the former president's son. Emily tried to keep her composure, but her heart quickened. "Just another customer," she told herself, picking up her order pad and walking toward him. "Good afternoon," she greeted, her voice steady, though her nerves wavered. "What can I get for you today?" Barron lifted his head, his calm gaze meeting hers. His eyes held a sincerity that was rare, almost disarming. "A cappuccino and a croissant," he said softly, a small, polite smile appearing on his face. "If you still have some." "Of course," Emily replied, jotting down the order quickly. "Anything else?" "That's all." "Thank you," he responded, his tone warm yet reserved, before turning to look out the window, seemingly lost in thought. Back at the counter, Emily busied herself preparing the order, but her hands moved less efficiently than usual. The familiar hiss of the coffee machine filled the air, yet her thoughts lingered at the corner table where Barron sat. She stole a glance over her shoulder. Barron sat upright, his posture relaxed but poised. No phone, no laptop, a rarity among the cafe's usual patrons. He simply stared out the window, seemingly deep in thought. His stillness exuded an unusual sense of calm that both intrigued and reassured Emily. "Just another customer," she repeated silently, trying to shake the odd feeling creeping into her chest. But there was something about Barron, the way he spoke, the way he smiled, that imprinted itself on her mind. Why had he chosen this small, unremarkable cafe? And why did he carry an air as if the weight of the world rested in his distant gaze? Emily continued preparing the order with her usual care. She frothed the milk, poured the coffee, and plated the croissant with precision. Every step felt deliberate, not because he was Barron Trump, but because something about him inspired her to do her best. Taking a deep breath, she carried the tray to his table. "Here's your cappuccino and croissant," she said warmly as she set the tray down. "Let me know if you need anything else." Barron looked up, offering a faint but genuine smile. "Thank you," he said, his voice calm yet carrying a subtle warmth. His eyes held a rare kindness that made Emily feel at ease, as if her efforts had not gone unnoticed. She lingered for a second, tempted to say something more, but quickly returned to the counter. As she walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that Barron's gaze followed her. Not in a curious or intrusive way, but with a quiet thoughtfulness. Back at the counter, Emily tried to focus on tidying up and preparing other orders, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the mysterious guest. His upright posture, his quiet presence, and the way he slowly sipped his cappuccino set him apart from anyone she'd served before. She stole another glance. Barron was taking another sip of his cappuccino, his hand gently turning the cup as if savoring every moment. He wasn't rushed, nor was he preoccupied. The peaceful aura he exuded seemed to slow down the atmosphere of the entire cafe, spreading an unusual calmness that Emily couldn't quite explain. She smiled to herself, shaking her head as if to dismiss her thoughts. "He's just a customer," she reminded herself. But deep down, she couldn't deny the feeling that this afternoon was different. Different in a way she couldn't yet put into words. Emily went back to her tasks, yet an unfamiliar feeling had taken hold of her. It was as though this quiet guest wasn't just here for a cup of coffee. Perhaps something more meaningful was unfolding, something she would never forget. Every now and then, Emily's gaze drifted toward Barron. He remained seated, his cappuccino nearly finished, and only crumbs left on his plate. Yet he remained unhurried, calmly turning his cup as he stared out the window, lost in thoughts no one could access. His tranquil demeanor piqued Emily's curiosity, but she tried to stay focused on her tasks, wiping tables, organizing trays, and restocking sugar packets. Yet all of it felt secondary, her attention constantly drawn back to the corner of the cafe. A few minutes later, Emily noticed Barron reaching into his pocket and pulling out a pen. He leaned over his receipt, writing with deliberate strokes, as though every word carried weight. When he finished, he folded the paper carefully, tucking it under his empty cappuccino cup. Then, with quiet ease, he stood, slipped on his coat, and made his way to the door. From behind the counter, Emily kept her composure. She called out, "Thank you for stopping by. Have a great day." Barron paused, turned slightly, and smiled once more. "You too," he replied, his voice as warm as his earlier words. As the doorbell chimed softly with Barron's exit, the cafe returned to its familiar quiet. Emily's gaze lingered at the door for a moment before she stepped toward his table to clear it. The cappuccino cup was empty, its foam nearly dried, and the croissant plate held only crumbs. But her eyes quickly landed on the folded piece of paper beneath the cup. She hesitated for a moment, then carefully picked it up. A receipt, she thought, expecting nothing more than a typical gratuity. But as she unfolded it, her breath caught in her chest. Beneath the total amount was a handwritten note, simple yet profound. "Your kindness and hard work don't go unnoticed. My family has been where you are. Stay strong. Brighter days are coming." Emily reread the words, her heart pounding in her chest. It wasn't just a note. It was recognition, encouragement, and a reminder that even in her struggles, someone had truly seen her. Barron turned back, offering a warm smile. "You too," he said softly, his voice calm yet filled with genuine sincerity. That simple statement, combined with his gentle gaze, stirred something in Emily's heart. As he stepped through the door, the bell chimed once more, and the cafe returned to its usual quiet. Emily took a deep breath, steadying herself, before heading to his table to clean up. As she lifted the empty cappuccino cup, her eyes fell on a folded piece of paper tucked beneath it. At first, she thought it was just the receipt with a tip, a common gesture from wealthy patrons who often left generous amounts as a silent token of appreciation. But as she unfolded the paper, her breath caught in her chest. Beneath the total, a 4-digit number so large that she had to blink twice to believe it, was a handwritten note, neatly penned yet deeply heartfelt. "Your kindness and hard work don't go unnoticed. My family has been where you are. Stay strong. Brighter days are coming." Emily read the words over and over, as if the world around her had paused. She couldn't comprehend how a complete stranger could see through her quiet struggles, let alone acknowledge them with such empathy. Those words weren't just a message. They were recognition, a beacon of hope, soothing months of exhaustion and unseen effort. She sank into the chair across from where Barron had been sitting, clutching the note tightly in her hands as though letting go might make it disappear. Memories of long, grueling days flashed through her mind, nights spent working overtime, skipping meals to afford her mother's medication, and endless hours lying awake, wondering if tomorrow would be any better. Brighter days are coming. The words echoed in her mind like a promise, a lifeline urging her to keep going. Emily wiped away the tears streaming down her face just as the bell above the door chimed again. Another customer entered, pulling her back to the present. Folding the note carefully, she tucked it into her pocket as if it were the most precious thing she owned. She returned to the counter, a faint smile on her lips, her steps a little lighter. But she knew, from that moment on, nothing would ever be the same. What Emily didn't realize was that the note Barron had left behind would soon ripple far beyond the walls of the small cafe. Someone in the cafe had seen the note, taken a photo, and shared it online. It wouldn't take long for the story of Barron Trump's heartfelt gesture to spread like wildfire, touching countless lives. Emily went back to her usual routine, but her thoughts constantly returned to the words Barron had written. Your kindness and hard work don't go unnoticed. Stay strong. Brighter days are coming. She kept the note tucked in her pocket, occasionally reaching in to touch it, as if to reassure herself that it was still there. To her, it was more than just a piece of paper. It was a powerful reminder of resilience and hope. But the calm wouldn't last. Just a few hours later, while Emily was behind the counter stacking trays, she noticed something unusual. A group of customers sitting near the corner table where Barron had been began whispering and glancing in that direction. Their hushed voices carried a mix of excitement and curiosity. Moments later, one of Emily's co-workers rushed over, their face lit with enthusiasm. Emily, have you seen this? They whispered, holding up their phone. The receipt Barron left. It's gone viral. Emily blinked in surprise, feeling the room shift around her. Viral? What do you mean? You have to see it, her coworker said, showing her the screen. It was a photo of the receipt with Barron's handwritten note, posted on social media with the caption, "A simple act of kindness can change someone's day." Emily stared at the screen, her heart racing. The post had already garnered thousands of likes and shares, with comments pouring in from people across the country. Some praised Barron for his thoughtfulness, while others expressed solidarity with Emily, even though they knew little about her life. A wave of emotions hit her, gratitude, disbelief, and a creeping sense of vulnerability. She hadn't asked for this attention, but it was here now, pulling her into a spotlight she wasn't sure she was ready for. The cafe buzzed with quiet energy as customers and co-workers alike whispered about the note and its sudden fame. Emily tried to stay focused, but her mind was a whirlwind. The words Barron had written felt even more significant now, not just as a message to her but as a beacon of hope for anyone struggling. The once ordinary afternoon had transformed into something extraordinary, and Emily couldn't help but wonder, what happens next? Emily, have you seen this? Her co-worker whispered excitedly, holding up a phone. Barron's receipt. It's going viral. Viral? Emily frowned, her mind spinning. What do you mean? You have to see it, her co-worker said, handing her the phone. On the screen was a social media post featuring a photo of Barron's receipt, with his handwritten note clearly visible. The caption read simply, "A small act of kindness can change someone's entire day." Emily stared at the screen, her eyes fixed on the post. In just a few hours, it had garnered tens of thousands of shares and comments from people all over. Some praised Barron for his compassion, while others expressed heartfelt support for Emily, even though they didn't know anything about her life. She felt a tightness in her chest. The unexpected attention was overwhelming. Emily was not the kind of person who sought the spotlight. She was used to working quietly behind the counter, blending into the background. Now, it felt like the entire world was staring at her through their screens. Her phone buzzed, snapping her back to reality. It was a text from her manager. Brace yourself. Your story is spreading fast. Reporters have already called the cafe asking about you. Emily froze, her emotions teetering between anxiety and disbelief. She didn't want her life to be turned upside down, but deep down, she also understood that this story wasn't just hers anymore. It had grown into something bigger, a reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness could create waves of change. Stepping outside to take out the trash, Emily's breath caught when she saw a small group of reporters gathered across the street. Cameras and microphones in hand, they scanned the area, ready to pounce on any sight of her. One of them spotted her and waved. "Emily, right. Could we ask you a few questions about Barron Trump's note?" Emily didn't respond. She turned quickly, retreating back inside as her heart pounded in her chest. Questions swirled in her mind. What should I do? If I speak, will it overshadow the true meaning of his note? But if I stay silent, am I avoiding the chance to share something meaningful? Emily knew she couldn't avoid this forever, but she needed time. Time to gather her thoughts, to figure out how to share her story without losing its sincerity. She took a deep breath, her hand instinctively brushing against the pocket where Barron's note was tucked away. That small piece of paper had become a lifeline, a source of strength. As she looked out at the world beyond the cafe's windows, she realized that everything had changed, and it would never go back to the way it was before. Later that evening, Emily sat quietly in the corner of the cafe, staring at the folded note resting on the table before her. Barron's words echoed in her mind. Stay strong. Brighter days are coming. What had once been a simple reassurance had now become the root of her unease. She never expected the story to spread so far. Facing the glare of the media and the curiosity of the world, she felt as though she had been swept into an unrelenting storm. Doubts swirled in her mind. Am I worthy of this attention? Can I protect the true meaning of the note, or will it be lost in all this noise? That night, when Emily returned home, she found her mother sitting in her worn recliner, watching the news. On the screen, Emily immediately recognized the now viral image of the receipt with Barron's handwritten message. The discussion around their story was spreading even further than she had imagined, with comments and debates flooding social media. Emily placed her bag down and sat beside her mother, who turned to her with a knowing look. The weight of the day pressed heavily on her shoulders as she whispered, I never asked for this, Mom. I don't know what to do. Her mother, wise and calm, gently reached for her hand. Emily, sometimes these things find you, even if you're not looking for them. You didn't ask for this, but maybe it's not about you anymore. Maybe it's about sharing something good with the world. Emily sat in silence, her mother's words sinking in. She knew there was truth in them, but the fear of saying the wrong thing or misrepresenting the story still gnawed at her. That night, as she stared at the note one more time, Barron's words lingered in her mind. Brighter days are coming. Maybe, just maybe, she could find the courage to let those brighter days start with her. Emily set her bag down and sat beside her mother. Everyone's talking about it, Mom, she sighed, her voice heavy with emotion. I don't know what to do. I just wanted to keep this story to myself. But now... Her mother turned to her, her gaze gentle but filled with understanding. Emily, do you remember what I used to tell you when you were little? Good things are never meant to be kept for one person. They're meant to be shared. But I don't know what to say, Emily admitted, her voice cracking. If I speak out, I'm afraid I'll ruin the meaning behind what Barron did. She lowered her head, feeling overwhelmed. Her mother softly clasped Emily's hand. You don't need to do anything grand. Just speak from your heart. Share what you feel, what truly matters to you. That's all it takes to spread kindness. Emily sat there long after her mother had gone to bed, staring at the folded note on the table. Her hands brushed over its creases, her fingers lingering on the paper's edges. The words Barron had written weren't just a message. They were a recognition she had been longing for all along. Through months of working tirelessly to make ends meet, she had never expected anyone to notice her silent struggles. But Barron had seen her. And with his note, he reminded her that she wasn't invisible, nor was she alone. The next morning, as sunlight filled her small room, Emily sat at her desk, her phone resting in front of her. She opened the email from a popular morning show, reading the words that seemed to leap off the screen. "We would love to hear your story. This is an opportunity to share the meaningful message behind it." Her breath hitched as her fingers hovered over the reply button. Her hands trembled slightly, and her heart raced with doubt. She still felt nervous, unsure if she could face the attention and the cameras. But her mother's words from the night before echoed in her mind, grounding her. This wasn't just her story anymore. It was an opportunity to speak about what she deeply believed, that even the smallest acts of kindness could change someone's life. Emily took a deep breath, then carefully typed her reply. "I'll do it, but I want to focus on the message behind the note, not the money." When she hit send, a sense of relief washed over her, as though a weight had been lifted. She gazed out the window, where sunlight streamed through the curtains, and a small smile spread across her face. The decision was made, and Emily knew the path ahead wouldn't be easy, but she wasn't afraid anymore. With Barron's note in her pocket and a belief in the power of goodness, she felt ready to step beyond her comfort zone and share her story. Later that morning, Emily sat in her sunlit room, rereading the email confirmation from the show. Each word reinforced the importance of her choice. "We're looking forward to hearing your story. This is a chance to share the meaningful message it carries." Her fingers trembled slightly as they hovered over the reply button. Emily wasn't someone who sought the limelight, and the idea of speaking before an audience made her heart race. But she knew now that her story had grown beyond her. Barron's note wasn't just a personal token. It was a symbol of hope that needed to be shared. With this in mind, she gathered her courage and made her decision. Sometimes, Emily thought, the smallest decision can have the biggest impact. What would she say to a world that was now listening? After the interview aired, Emily and Barron's story became a source of inspiration across the country. But its impact didn't stop at social media or news outlets. It seeped into the everyday lives of ordinary people. When Emily returned to work at the cafe, everything felt different. The familiar faces of regular customers were no longer there just for coffee or pastries. Many left small notes with kind messages. "Thank you for your hard work. Hope you have a wonderful day." Even a small smile can make today special. Some customers, without saying a word, left generous tips. But what moved Emily the most were the warm smiles, the understanding glances, and the heartfelt thank yous she received. She realized that this story hadn't just changed her life. It had sparked kindness and compassion in those around her. Simple gestures that once seemed insignificant now became the very motivation for Emily to keep moving forward. The piece of paper with Barron's handwritten note remained safely tucked in her wallet, a treasure she held dear. Whenever life felt overwhelming, she would take it out and reread those words, feeling a glimmer of light cutting through the darkness. Your kindness and hard work don't go unnoticed. Stay strong. Brighter days are coming. Emily was no longer the girl struggling silently under the weight of unpaid bills and sleepless nights. She became living proof that even a small act of kindness could transform a life, not just her own, but the lives of everyone who heard her story. Emily's story ended with a message that was both humble and profound. A small act of kindness can create a ripple effect of hope. So, who will you inspire today? In a fast-paced and noisy world, sometimes all it takes is a smile, a word of encouragement, or a small gesture to turn someone's day around. And perhaps that simple act could become the spark for something far greater, a story of hope, compassion, and the belief that the world still holds beauty. If this story touched your heart, share it to spread the message of kindness. Don't forget to hit subscribe to follow more inspiring stories on Inspiring Hearts. Together, we can create a better world, starting with you. Emily's journey may have come to an end, but yours is just beginning. What will you do today to bring light into someone's life? The words her mother had spoken that night stayed with her. Good things are never meant to be kept for one person. They're meant to be shared. and Barron's handwritten note reminded her of a simple truth. Sometimes, even the smallest act of kindness can change an entire life. With a deep breath, Emily looked at the note once more, its words etched into her heart. Your kindness and hard work don't go unnoticed. Stay strong. Brighter days are coming. Her decision had been made, and she had chosen to share the story. Not for fame, not for money, but for the profound meaning behind a few thoughtful words. This story began with a simple act of kindness. Its ripples, however, would continue to inspire for years to come. After the interview aired, Emily and Barron's story became a source of inspiration across the country. But its impact didn't end on social media or news outlets. It reached into the quiet, everyday moments of ordinary lives. When Emily returned to work at the cafe, everything felt different. Regular customers no longer stopped by just for coffee or pastries. Many left small notes with heartfelt messages. Thank you for your hard work. Hope you have a wonderful day. Even a small smile can make today special. Some customers, without saying a word, left unusually generous tips. But what moved Emily the most were the warm smiles, the kind glances, and the sincere thank yous she received. Emily realized that her story hadn't just changed her life. It had sparked kindness and compassion in those around her. Small, seemingly simple actions now became powerful motivators for her to keep moving forward. The piece of paper with Barron's handwritten note remained safely tucked in her wallet, a treasure she held close to her heart. Whenever life felt overwhelming, she would take it out and reread the words, finding a glimmer of light cutting through the darkness. Your kindness and hard work don't go unnoticed. Stay strong. Brighter days are coming. Emily was no longer the girl silently struggling under the weight of unpaid bills or sleepless nights. She became living proof that even a small act of kindness could transform a life. Not just her own, but the lives of everyone who heard her story. Emily's journey ended with a message that was both simple and profound. A small act of kindness can create a ripple effect of hope. So, who will you inspire today? In a fast-paced, noisy world, sometimes all it takes is a smile, a word of encouragement, or a small gesture to turn someone's day around. And perhaps that small act could become the beginning of something greater. A story of hope, compassion, and a reminder that the world still holds beauty. If this story touched your heart, share it to spread the message of kindness. Don't forget to hit subscribe to follow more inspiring stories on Inspiring Hearts. Together, we can create a better world, starting with you. Emily's journey may have ended, but yours is just beginning. What will you do today to bring light into someone's life? Her mother's words from the night before echoed in Emily's mind. Good things are never meant to be kept for one person. They're meant to be shared. And Barron's handwritten note reminded her of a truth she had nearly forgotten. Sometimes, even the smallest act of kindness can transform an entire life. With a steady breath, Emily glanced at the note one more time, its words etched into her memory. Your kindness and hard work don't go unnoticed. Stay strong. Brighter days are coming. As she typed her reply to the morning show, her fingers moved deliberately across the keyboard. I'll participate, but I want to talk about the meaning of the note, not the money. With a click, she sent the email, feeling as though a weight had lifted from her shoulders. She smiled softly as sunlight streamed through her window. This story began with a simple act of kindness. Its ripples, however, were destined to inspire hope and compassion far beyond anything Emily could have imagined. The studio glowed brightly under the lights and professional cameras. Emily sat on the interview chair, her hands gently clasped together to steady her nerves. Across from her was the host, a woman with a warm smile and an encouraging gaze. Emily, the host began, her voice filled with empathy. Your story has touched millions of hearts. Today, we're eager to hear from you directly. How did you feel when you first read Barron's note? Emily took a deep breath, grounding herself before speaking. At first, I was truly surprised. Not because of the tip, but because of the words he wrote. Those words made me realize that no matter how much effort you put in, it's not always recognized. But Barron saw it, and that meant everything to me. The host nodded, her expression radiating understanding. What do you think Barron's message was meant to convey? Emily paused for a moment, her gaze shifting toward the camera, as if speaking directly to each viewer. I think he wanted to remind us that everyone faces struggles in life, but kindness, even the smallest gesture, can make a world of difference. His words didn't just encourage me. They reminded me that hope always exists, even in the darkest times. The host smiled gently and read aloud the words Barron had written. Your kindness and hard work don't go unnoticed. My family has been where you are. Stay strong. Brighter days are coming. Emily, the host asked, her voice laden with emotion. Is there anything you'd like to say to Barron? Or to those watching this program today? Emily's smile was soft but confident as she responded, her voice steady and warm. Kindness doesn't take much, but it means everything to someone who needs it. Barron's note reminded me that I mattered, and I hope it reminds others to never lose hope. The studio fell silent for a moment, the weight of Emily's words settling over everyone present. In that instant, she wasn't just sharing her story, she was delivering a powerful message about the transformative power of kindness, something anyone, regardless of their circumstances, could offer to another. A single note had sparked something far greater than anyone could have imagined. In that studio, Emily wasn't just a storyteller. She became a beacon of hope, a source of inspiration for hearts yearning to believe in kindness again.